The party lights were still flashing when David pulled me into the kitchen and whispered the words that stopped my heart cold. "Emilio, I've been in love with you for years, and I can't pretend anymore not with Ryan watching us like that." My beer bottle slipped from my hand and shattered on the tile, sending foam everywhere, but nobody noticed over the music. I stare at my best friend, the guy I'd shared late-night talks, basketball games, and every major life moment with since college, and suddenly the room spun. David stood there, his light brown hair messy from dancing, his green eyes locked on mine, with a vulnerability I'd never seen. We were supposed to be the unbreakable crew, four guys who had each other's backs through everything. Ryan and Marcus were out in the living room laughing about some work story, completely clueless that our world had just cracked open. I backed away, my pulse hammering in my ears. "David, what the hell are you saying?" I hissed, keeping my voice low, because the last thing I needed was the group hearing this. I'd always thought of myself as straight, or at least that's what I told everyone, including my conservative parents back in Ohio. But deep down in the quiet moments when no one was around, I'd felt something more for David, something that scared me enough to bury it under jokes and bro hugs. Now here he was laying it all out at our monthly guys' night in his Chicago apartment, the one we all treated like home base. The confession hung between us heavier than the bass thumping through the walls. Before he could answer, Ryan poked his head in his broad shoulders, filling the doorway. "You two okay? We need more chips, or what?" Ryan asked, his easy smile not matching the tension I felt radiating off David. I forced a laugh that sounded fake even to me. "You man just arguing over who pays for the next round." Ryan shrugged and disappeared, but not before shooting David a quick glance that lingered a second too long. Was that jealousy I saw? My stomach twisted. The four of us, Emilio, David, Ryan, and Marcus, had been inseparable since freshman year at the University of Illinois. We moved to Chicago together, chased careers, supported each other through breakups and promotions. Now, this one sentence threatened to rip it all apart. David stepped closer, his hand brushing my arm, sending an unwanted spark through me. "Emilio, please don't shut me out. I've watched you date girls who never got you. I've waited because I thought maybe one day you'd see it too." His voice cracked, and that broke something in me. I wanted to run, but my feet stayed planted. Outside the kitchen, Marcus called out, "Last song of the night, boys." The normalcy of it all made my chest ache. How could everything feel so ordinary when my best friend had just admitted he loved me? I mumbled something about needing air and pushed past him into the cool night air of the balcony. The city lights of Chicago stretched below, twinkling like nothing had changed. But everything had. My mind raced with questions. What about our friendship? What would Ryan and Marcus think? And worse, what would my family say if they ever found out? The weight of years of hiding pressed down harder than ever. David followed me out, closing the door softly. "I didn't plan to say it tonight, but seeing you laugh with everyone, I couldn't hold it in anymore." His honesty hit like a punch. I turned to face him, the wind whipping between us. For the first time, I let myself really look at him, not as my buddy, but as the man who had just upended my entire identity. "David, this changes everything," I whispered. He nodded, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "I know, but maybe it needs to." We stood there in silence, the party fading behind us while my thoughts spiraled into the unknown. Little did I know this was only the beginning of the storm that would test every bond we had built. The next morning, I woke up on David's couch, my head pounding from more than just a beer. The apartment smelled like leftover pizza and regret. David was already in the kitchen, making coffee, his back to me. "Morning," he said softly without turning around. I sat up, rubbing my eyes, trying to convince myself last night was a dream. It wasn't. Ryan and Marcus had crashed in the guest room, and their snoring drifted down the hall. I grabbed my phone and saw 3 missed calls from my mom back home. She always checked in on Sundays, wanting updates on my single life and hinting at nice girls from church. How could I ever explain this? David slid a mug across the counter. "We should talk before the others wake up." His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly. I nodded, taking a sip that burned my tongue. "What happens now? Do we pretend it didn't happen?" He shook his head. "I can't pretend anymore, Emilio. I've been carrying this for 4 years. For years." The number hit me like a freight train. All those road trips, basketball games, and quiet nights watching games where I'd felt that pull, but pushed it away. Now it was out, and the group dynamic, the one thing that kept me grounded, felt fragile. Ryan stumbled in first, yawning and stretching. Dude, last night was epic. What time did you two crash? He clapped me on the shoulder, the casual touch, now feeling loaded. I forced a grin. Late enough. Marcus followed, looking fresh, as always. Breakfast burritos on me, who's in? The normal banter flowed, but underneath, I sensed the shift. David avoided my eyes while serving plates. Every laugh, every joke carried an undercurrent I couldn't ignore. By the time we finished eating, the air felt thick with unspoken words. Ryan suggested a pickup basketball game at the park like always, but I begged off, claiming work deadlines. Truth was, I needed space to process the hurricane in my chest. As the guys headed out, David lingered at the door. Call me later, okay? We're not losing this. I nodded, but inside I wondered if we could survive it. Walking home through the bustling streets of Chicago, I replayed every moment. The way David looked at me last night wasn't just friendship. It was love, raw and real. And for the first time, I admitted to myself that maybe I felt it too. But admitting that meant facing my parents, my job, my whole carefully built life. The fear gripped me tight. By the time I reached my apartment, the doubt had turned to panic. How do you choose between the man you've always been and the one you might become? The group chat buzzed with memes from the game, but I couldn't bring myself to reply. Everything was different now, and I had no idea how to fix it. By Monday, the office felt like another world. I sat at my desk in a marketing firm staring at campaign mock-ups, but my mind kept drifting back to David's kitchen confession. Colleagues chatted about weekend plans, oblivious to the war raging inside me. My phone vibrated with a text from Marcus. Dude, you missed a killer game yesterday. Everything cool. I typed back a quick, all good bro, but the lie tasted bitter. How could I explain that one conversation had me questioning every label I'd ever worn? During lunch, I stepped out to the rooftop terrace overlooking the river. The wind off Lake Michigan carried the faint scent of rain. I dialed my sister back in Ohio, the only person who might understand without judgment. Emilio, what's wrong? You sound off, she said after one ring. I hesitated, then spilled the basics, no names, just enough to breathe. There's this guy from the group. He told me he loves me. Silence stretched, then her voice softened. And how do you feel? That question cracked the dam. Terrified, excited, lost. She didn't lecture, just listened, promising to keep it between us. But even that small relief reminded me of the bigger walls, my parents' expectations, the small-town values they drilled into me. Coming home for holidays meant hiding who I was. Now the secret had a face, David's face, and it wouldn't stay buried. Back at my desk, Ryan called. Hey man, pizza night at my place. Wednesday? David's bringing wings. His tone was normal, but I caught the slight edge. Had he noticed something at the party? I agreed, hoping the group hang would smooth things over. Wednesday arrived too fast. We gathered at Ryan's loft, the four of us, like old times, except it wasn't. David arrived last, his smile tight, when our eyes met. Marcus cracked open beers, launching into a story about his latest date, a girl from the gym. Ryan laughed a little too loud, glancing between me and David. The tension built like static before a storm. Halfway through dinner, David cleared his throat. Guys, I need to say something. My fork froze midair. Ryan set his beer down slowly. What's up? David looked straight at me, then around the table. I've been figuring some stuff out about myself. I'm gay, and I've had feelings for someone in this room for a long time. The room went dead silent. Marcus blinked. Wait, what? Ryan's face hardened, a flash of something dark crossing his features. I felt exposed, like every secret glance we'd ever shared was now under a spotlight. David continued, his voice steady, but eyes pleading with me. Emilio, it's you. The words landed like bombs. Marcus leaned back, stunned. Ryan pushed his plate away, his knuckles white. You serious right now? All these years and you dropped this? The betrayal in his voice cut deep. I hadn't expected Ryan to react so strongly. Was there more to his friendship with David than I knew? Arguments erupted fast, Marcus trying to play peacemaker, while Ryan accused David of hiding things that affected the group. I sat there, numb, my own feelings swirling too fast to name. Part of me wanted to defend David, another part wanted to disappear. When Ryan stormed out, slamming the door, the group felt fractured for the first time. David looked at me defeated. "I'm sorry, I thought it was time." I nodded, but inside the guilt and confusion mixed with a spark of something warmer. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I replayed the scene. Ryan's anger seemed personal. The next day at work, I got a text from him. "We need to talk." Alone. My stomach dropped. Meeting him at a quiet coffee shop downtown, I braced for impact. Ryan arrived, his usual easy smile gone. "Did you know?" he asked without preamble. I shook my head. "Not until the party." He stared into his cup. "I've been dealing with my own stuff, Emilio." Seeing David look at you like that, it hit hard. His confession stunned me. Ryan, a guy who dated models and talked nonstop about girls, was struggling too. The triangle was forming before my eyes, and I was caught in the middle. We talked for hours, unpacking years of unspoken feelings. By the time we left the shop, the group chat had gone silent. No memes, no plans. The fallout had begun, and with it came the first cracks in my carefully guarded heart. Walking home, I called David. "We can't ignore this anymore." His voice softened over the line. "I never wanted to hurt anyone, especially not you." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The identity I'd clung to was slipping away, replaced by questions I could no longer avoid. What did loving a man mean for my future? How much was I willing to lose to find out? The answer scared me, but for the first time, they also felt possible. The silence in the group chat stretched into days. I threw myself into work deadlines, hoping the distraction would quiet the storm in my head. But every notification made me flinch, expecting the inevitable blow-up. David texted me privately a few times, just checking in with simple messages like "thinking about you," that warmed and terrified me at once. Ryan stayed radio silent. Marcus tried, playing mediator, sending a group invite for Saturday brunch, but only 3 of us showed up. The cafe in Lincoln Park buzzed with weekend crowds, but our table felt like an island. Marcus stirred his coffee awkwardly. "Look, guys, this doesn't have to break us. We've been through worse, right?" David nodded, but his eyes kept finding mine across the table. Ryan's empty chair loomed larger than words. Halfway through Eggs Benedict, Ryan finally appeared, his face drawn. He slid into the seat without greeting anyone. "Sorry I'm late." The tension thickened. I could see the struggle in his posture, the way his jaw clenched when David spoke. After small talk died, Marcus pushed. "Ryan, you okay, man? Talk to us." Ryan set his fork down hard. "No, I'm not." David drops this bomb, and suddenly everything's about him and Emilio. "What about the rest of us?" His eyes flicked to me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "I've had feelings to you now." For David. For a while. The table went still. David's face paled. I felt the ground shift again. Ryan liking David? The pieces clicked into place, the lingering glances, the protectiveness. A love triangle had been hiding in plain sight among our so-called unbreakable bromance. Marcus rubbed his temples. "This is a lot, guys. We need ground rules or something." David reached for my hand under the table, a small gesture that sent electricity up my arm. I didn't pull away. Ryan watched the movement, and his expression crumpled. "So that's it then? You two are a thing now." The accusation hung heavy. I found my voice. "Nothing's decided, Ryan. This is new for all of us." But even as I said it, I knew the lie. Something had been building between David and me long before the confession. Brunch ended in awkward hugs and promises to figure it out. Outside on the sidewalk, Ryan pulled me aside. "Emilio, if you heard him." He trailed off the threat, unspoken but clear. His protectiveness surprised me and stirred unexpected jealousy in my chest. Walking away, I felt pulled in 3 directions: friendship, loyalty, and this new pull toward David. That afternoon, I drove to the lakefront alone, needing space. The waves crashed against the rocks, mirroring the chaos inside. My phone rang. My dad this time. "Son, how's the big city treating you? Any special girl yet?" The question I dodged for years now felt impossible. I mumbled something vague about focusing on career, but the guilt gnawed. Hanging up, I realized how much I'd sacrificed to fit their mold. Back home, that evening David showed up at my door unannounced with takeout Thai food and a hesitant smile. "Figured you might need company." We ate on the couch talking about everything but the elephant in the room until he set his plate down. Emilio, what Ryan said today. I had no idea. His vulnerability cracked my defenses. I turned to him, really seeing him for the first time, without filters. David, I've been fighting this too. The feelings, the fear. He listened without interrupting, letting me unload years of doubt. When I finished, he took my hand. We don't have to rush anything, but I want to be honest with the group and with ourselves. His words gave me courage. The next day, we called an emergency meeting at Marcus's place. All four of us sat in the living room, the air thick with anticipation. I spoke first, laying out my own journey, the identity crisis, the family pressure. David shared his side. Ryan admitted his crush had been growing for months, adding another layer of hurt. Marcus listened then, surprised us all. I've suspected something for a while, actually, but I stayed quiet because it's your story to tell. His support anchored us. The conversation stretched into the night, tears, arguments, and finally tentative understanding. We agreed to give each other space while figuring things out, no pressure on relationships. As we left, Ryan hugged David longer than usual, then turned to me. Take care of him, Emilio. The words carried acceptance and pain. Walking home with David beside me, the city lights felt a little less lonely. For the first time, the future didn't seem like a dead end, but a path worth exploring, even if it meant losing parts of the old group dynamic. The triangle had forced us to grow, and those scars would remain. The honesty felt like the first step towards something stronger. Weeks blurred into a tense new normal. The group still met, but the easy laughter had edges now. Work consumed me, but even deadlines couldn't drown out the constant replay of conversations. One evening, my boss pulled me into a meeting praising my latest campaign, but all I heard was the echo of Ryan's words at brunch. The pressure to perform at the office mixed with the emotional weight at home until I felt stretched thin. David and I started spending more time together, just talking long walks along the river or quiet dinners where we unpacked our pasts. He told me about coming out to his sister in college, the freedom it brought. I shared the fear of disappointing my parents the way their Sunday calls always circled back to grandkids and tradition. Each story wove us closer, but the group fallout lingered like a shadow. Marcus tried keeping traditions alive, organizing a low-key game night, but Ryan showed up distant, his usual jokes forced. During a break, he cornered me in the kitchen. Seeing you two together, it's harder than I thought. His honesty stung because part of me understood. The jealousy wasn't one-sided anymore. I felt it too, watching Ryan and David share inside, jokes from before everything changed. That night, after everyone left, David stayed behind. Emilio, do you ever wonder if this is worth it? The group changing the awkwardness. His question mirrored my own doubts. We sat on the couch, shoulders touching, and for the first time, I leaned and resting my head against his. It scares me, but losing you scares me more. The admission felt huge, a turning point in my journey toward accepting who I was. The real test came 2 weeks later when my parents announced a surprise visit to Chicago. They wanted to see my life and meet the guys they'd heard so much about. Panic set in. David offered to stay away, but I refused. They're part of my world now, you are too. The weekend arrived with forced smiles and tours of the city. Mom hugged everyone a little too tightly while Dad clapped backs talking sports. At dinner, the conversation turned personal. So, Emilio, any special lady? Mom asked innocently. The table froze. Ryan looked away. Marcus cleared his throat. David met my eyes, steady and encouraging. I took a breath. Actually, Mom, there's someone special. It's David. The words hung in the air like smoke. Mom's fort paused. Dad's face tightened. Son, what are you saying? The questions poured out, confusion, hurt, disappointment. Ryan and Marcus excused themselves, giving us privacy, but the damage spread. Later that night, after my parents left for their hotel, David held me while I processed the tears. They need time, Emilio. You were brave. His support meant everything, but the family rift cut deep. The next day, Ryan texted the group, maybe we need a break from all this. The message hit like a final crack in the foundation. Marcus called an emergency talk, but the damage was done. Friendships strained under the weight of truths and choices. I spent the following days alone, reflecting on the sacrifices. Coming out to my family had cost peace, but gained authenticity. Watching the group splinter showed me how love could both heal and hurt. David and I grew stronger through it, all sharing quiet moments that rebuilt my confidence. Yet the guilt over Ryan lingered. One afternoon, I met him at the park where we'd played basketball 100 times. "I never wanted to come between you two," I said. Ryan nodded, eyes on the horizon. "I know, but watching you choose each other, it forced me to face my own feelings." His growth mirrored mine, the triangle pushing all of us towards self-awareness. As leaves began turning in Chicago, the season of change felt literal. The old group wasn't gone, just evolving, and I was learning that growth often came with growing pains. Fall deepened in Chicago, and with it the slow rebuilding. The group started small traditions again, coffee runs instead of full parties. Ryan opened up more, sharing his own journey of questioning and acceptance. Marcus became the glue, reminding us why we bonded in the first place, shared dreams and loyalty. David and I navigated our connection, carefully, no labels, just honest steps forward. One weekend, we drove to a cabin up north, the four of us, hoping neutral ground would help. The lake air cleared heads and conversations flowed easier. Around the fire, Ryan admitted, "I was jealous, but I'm happy for you guys." "Really?" His words lifted a weight. David squeezed my hand openly for the first time in front of them. The gesture felt like victory and healing. Back in the city, I faced my family again, this time over video call. Mom's voice softened. "We're trying, Emilio. It's different, but you're our son." Dad stayed quieter but nodded. The partial acceptance fueled my courage. At work, I even joined the company's diversity group, something the old me would have avoided. The identity crisis that started with David's confession transformed into quiet strength. Yet challenges remained. A colleague made a casual joke about bros before anything that stung, reminding me society still watched. I discussed it with David that night over pasta. "It's not easy, but I'm not hiding anymore." He smiled, the kind that reaches eyes. "That's what I love about you, your fight." The word love slipped out natural and right. We didn't rush, but the feelings settled warm and true. The group dynamic shifted too. We supported Ryan through his first tentative steps toward dating a guy from his gym. Marcus celebrated a promotion, and we toasted without the old tension. The love triangle hadn't destroyed us, it reshaped us into something more honest. One evening at Marcus's place, we reflected on the year. "Remember that party?" David asked, laughing. "We all did the night. Everything changed." The laughter felt genuine, now laced with gratitude. But growth isn't linear. A family holiday loomed, Thanksgiving back in Ohio. David offered to join, "Only if you want." I accepted, knowing it was another step. The trip tested everything: awkward dinners, long talks with parents. By the end, Mom hugged David goodbye. "Take care of my boy." Small miracles. Returning to Chicago, I felt lighter. The sacrifices, the misunderstandings, the betrayals had all led here. Stronger friendships, deeper love, clearer self. Ryan pulled me aside one day. "Thanks for not letting it ruin us." His words closed a chapter. As winter approached, the city lights sparkled brighter. I stood on my balcony with David, watching snow fall. "We made it through," I said. He nodded, "and we're better for it." The journey of four guys loving and growing had rewritten our story. No longer the same group, but something new and real. Winter wrapped Chicago in a blanket of white, turning the city into a postcard. The holidays passed in a blur of family visits and group gatherings that felt warmer than before. David and I spent Christmas morning exchanging simple gifts: a watch for him, a sketchbook for me, symbols of the quiet life we were building. Ryan joined us for New Year's, bringing his new boyfriend, the first time he'd introduced anyone to the crew. Marcus raised a toast to change that made us stronger. Glasses clinked and laughter filled the room, genuine and healing. The love triangle that once threatened to tear us apart had instead forged deeper bonds. I reflected often on the nights of doubt, the arguments, the tears. Each one had stripped away layers of fear, revealing the man I was meant to be. Work felt different too. I led a campaign celebrating diversity, something I'd never imagined pitching. My parents called more regularly, their questions gentler, their support growing. The societal pressures hadn't vanished, but I faced them with David by my side and friends at my back. One snowy evening, the four of us hiked a trail in the forest, preserves the crunch of boots the only sound. Ryan broke the silence. "Remember when I thought I'd lose you guys forever?" We all nodded. David spoke softly. "Secrets almost did, but truth saved us." The conversation turned to futures, dreams, careers, relationships. No more hiding, no more pretending. I looked at David, his cheeks pink from the cold, and felt overwhelming gratitude. The journey from that kitchen confession to this moment had been messy, beautiful, and necessary. Spring hinted at the edges of winter buds appearing on trees. The group planned a road trip back to our college town, closing the circle. Driving the familiar highway, I rode shotgun, with David, his hand resting on mine. Ryan and Marcus bantered in the back. The old rhythm returned richer now. At the campus, we walked old paths, sharing stories. "This is where it all started," Marcus said at our freshman dorm. The nostalgia, mixed with pride for how far we'd come. Back in Chicago, life settled into a new rhythm. David and I moved in together, slowly, intentionally. The group met weekly, no drama, just support. I realized the emotional growth wasn't just mine, it touched everyone. Ryan pursued his own path with confidence. Marcus championed causes close to his heart. The crisis had been a catalyst, turning boys into men who loved openly and lived authentically. One warm evening on the rooftop, we watched the sunset. "True or false?" I asked the group with a smile. "A love triangle can destroy friendships or strengthen them beyond measure." They laughed, debating playfully, but deep down we all knew the answer from our own story. The bonds we'd rebuilt proved love in all its forms, friendship, romantic, family, could survive and thrive when met with honesty, courage, and heart. As the city lights flickered on, I felt at peace with the man I'd become and the people who'd walked beside me through it all. True or false? A single confession among friends always ends in permanent loss, or can it spark the deepest growth of all?